America, the land of opportunity, is facing a reckoning. A nation built on dreams and aspirations now finds itself at a crossroads, grappling with challenges that threaten its very core. We're told it's the greatest country on earth, yet we're grappling with issues that suggest otherwise. The promise of the American dream seems increasingly out of reach for many. From the lingering threat of global conflict to the simmering unrest in our own backyard, America is in trouble. Protests and civil unrest have become almost commonplace, a stark reminder of the divisions that run deep within our society. But it's not just the headline-grabbing issues that should concern us. Beneath the surface, there are more subtle, yet equally devastating crises unfolding. Beneath the surface, a more insidious crisis is brewing, one that threatens the very fabric of our society. Neglected neighborhoods and communities are bearing the brunt of systemic failures. We're talking about the millions struggling with food insecurity, unable to put dinner on the table night after night. Families are forced to make impossible choices between paying bills and buying groceries. We're talking about the growing number of Americans experiencing homelessness, forced to sleep on the streets or in shelters. The sight of tents lining city sidewalks has become a grim reality. And we're talking about the economic instability that's leaving families one paycheck away from disaster. The volatility of the job market and rising living costs are pushing more people to the brink. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about the human cost, the emotional toll on families who are struggling to make ends meet. These are real people, our neighbors, our friends, maybe even our family members, who are struggling to keep their heads above water. The stress and anxiety are palpable, affecting mental health and well-being. And these struggles are compounded by other, often hidden threats that are slowly eroding our quality of life and jeopardizing our future. Urban decay and infrastructure failures are symptoms of deeper systemic issues. It's time to stop pretending everything is fine. The facade of normalcy is cracking, revealing the underlying vulnerabilities that need urgent attention. America is facing a crisis, and it's time we start acting like it. We need to come together, acknowledge the problems, and work towards sustainable solutions. The future of our nation depends on it. Let's talk about the basics: food, shelter, and financial security. These are the cornerstones of a stable and healthy life, the very foundation upon which we build our dreams and aspirations. These are not luxuries, folks. These are necessities. Without them, everything else falls apart. Imagine trying to focus on your job or your children's education when you're constantly worried about where your next meal is coming from. Yet, a shocking number of Americans are struggling to access even these fundamental needs. Food banks, which were once a last resort, have now become a lifeline for many. Food banks are overwhelmed, with demand exceeding supply. Shelves that were once stocked are now empty, and the volunteers are stretched thin, trying to meet the ever-growing need. Families are forced to make impossible choices between buying groceries or paying rent. It's a heartbreaking reality that many face every single day. And speaking of rent, have you seen the cost of housing lately? It's skyrocketing, making it nearly impossible for the average person to afford a decent place to live. It's enough to make your head spin. The dream of homeownership is slipping away for many, replaced by the harsh reality of unaffordable rents and substandard living conditions. The lack of affordable housing is pushing more and more people into homelessness, a problem exacerbated by mental health issues, addiction, and a lack of social support. These individuals are not just statistics. They are our neighbors, our friends, and our family members. Then there's the economic instability. Many are living paycheck to paycheck, with no safety net to catch them if they fall. Wages are stagnant, inflation is soaring, and good-paying jobs are becoming increasingly scarce. The cost of living is rising, but incomes are not keeping pace, creating a widening gap between the haves and the have-nots. This toxic combination is pushing millions of Americans into poverty and despair. Job fairs are packed, but the opportunities are few and far between, leaving many feeling hopeless and trapped. We're seeing a rise in mental health issues, substance abuse, and even a disturbing increase in murder-suicides linked to financial strain. The stress of not knowing how you'll make ends meet is taking a severe toll on people's mental and emotional well-being. This isn't just a problem for the individuals and families struggling, it's a problem for all of us. When our neighbors are in crisis, our communities suffer. We all have a stake in ensuring that everyone has access to the basics. When a significant portion of the population is living in a constant state of precarity, it undermines the very foundation of our society. We must come together to address these issues, to advocate for policies that ensure food, shelter, and financial security for all. Only then can we build a future where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Remember that time you bought a product assuming it was safe because, well, it was on the shelves? Then bam, massive recall. Turns out that toaster was more fire hazard than breakfast companion? We've all been there. But these aren't just isolated incidents. They're a symptom of a larger problem. Recently, a major car manufacturer issued a recall for hundreds of thousands of vehicles due to a faulty battery system that could potentially cause a fire. Yes, you heard that right, a fire. Imagine cruising down the highway only to have your car spontaneously combust. Not ideal. This recall highlights the critical importance of consumer safety regulations and corporate accountability. When companies prioritize profit over people, it's the consumers who end up paying the price, sometimes with their lives. So next time you see a product recall, don't just shrug it off. Pay attention, check your belongings, and demand better from the companies we trust with our safety. Electric vehicles, the supposed saviors of our planet, are all the rage these days. And don't get me wrong, transitioning to cleaner energy is crucial. But let's not pretend EVs are without their flaws, particularly when it comes to the ticking time bomb sitting underneath, lithium-ion batteries. These batteries, while efficient, are also incredibly volatile. We've all seen the videos of phones and laptops bursting into flames. Now imagine that same fiery potential, but on a much larger scale, like, say, your car. In the wake of recent hurricanes and natural disasters, we've seen firsthand the dangers posed by flooded EVs. Water damage can trigger battery fires, turning what was once a mode of transportation into a smoldering inferno. This isn't to say we should abandon electric vehicles altogether, but we need to acknowledge the risks and push for stricter safety standards, better battery technology, and comprehensive emergency response plans. Otherwise, our electric dreams might go up in smoke. Remember the simple days of walking into a dealership, slapping down a wad of cash, and driving off in your dream car? Yeah, me neither. Those days are long gone, replaced by a complex web of financing options that often leave buyers more confused than ever. The simplicity of cash transactions has been overshadowed by the intricate and often predatory world of car loans. These days, car buying is synonymous with financing, and those loans are getting increasingly predatory. The cost of car loans has been steadily rising, making it harder for the average consumer to afford a vehicle without taking on significant debt. The terms of these loans are often buried in fine print, with interest rates that can skyrocket unexpectedly. We're talking sky-high interest rates, extended loan terms, and monthly payments that would make your wallet weep. Imagine signing up for what seems like a manageable monthly payment, only to find out later that the interest rate has ballooned, making the car far more expensive than you initially thought. It's a financial trap that many fall into, often without realizing it until it's too late. This perfect storm of financial engineering has created a generation of borrowers trapped in a cycle of debt. Young people, in particular, are finding themselves buried under mountains of paperwork and debt, struggling to make ends meet while trying to pay off their car loans. The dream of owning a car has turned into a nightmare for many, as they find themselves chained to their debt with no easy way out. And it's not just new cars. The used car market is equally brutal, with inflated prices and limited inventory. The scarcity of affordable used cars has driven prices up, making it difficult for those on a budget to find a reliable vehicle. This has created a vicious cycle where even used cars are out of reach for many, forcing them to consider financing options that they can't really afford. This leaves many Americans with a difficult choice: take on crippling debt to buy a car they need, or risk their livelihood by foregoing reliable transportation. It's a lose-lose situation that puts immense pressure on individuals and families. Reliable transportation is not a luxury. It's a necessity for most people to get to work, school, and other essential activities. Yet the financial burden of owning a car has become almost unbearable for many. It's time for some financial responsibility, both on the part of lenders and borrowers. Lenders need to offer fair and transparent loan terms, while borrowers need to be more vigilant and informed about the financial commitments they are making. A handshake should symbolize trust and mutual benefit, not a one-sided agreement that leaves the borrower at a disadvantage. We need to stop normalizing these predatory lending practices and start promoting financial literacy. Financial education should be a priority, empowering individuals to make informed decisions and avoid falling into debt traps. Understanding the basics of interest rates, loan terms, and financial planning can go a long way in helping people navigate the complex world of car financing. Because let's be honest, a car shouldn't cost you your financial freedom. It's time to break free from the chains of debt and reclaim control over our financial futures. By promoting responsible lending practices and financial literacy, we can create a more equitable and sustainable car financing system for everyone.